Hello everyone, so glad you've joined us for this weekend edition of Jamaica Magazine. I'm your host, Adrian Atkinson. Coming up in this half hour, we journey out west for stories on developments on that side of the island. And Healthwise looks at how you can reduce your risk of getting cancer through your diet. Plus, see how technology can be used to advance agriculture. Stay with us for all these and more right after this important message.
The following is brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
The best indicator of Jamaica's capacity in managing the health system would be the number of beds that we have. And we have to be very careful about how we as a country loosen our measures, because very rapidly this virus could spread and the number of beds that we have could easily be used up. That would throw us into a crisis. It was not so long ago, in February, that we approached that crisis level. We do not want to get there again.
The proceeding was brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
In this leg of our bi-weekly Western Roundup, team member Nikita Sterling is visiting St. James to witness the joy of residents getting access to an improved healthcare facility. Then it's over to St. Elizabeth, where other citizens are receiving potable water. Come travel with us.
Hi, today on Western Roundup, we head to Barrowtown in St. James, where residents are now benefiting from the newly rehabilitated Barrowtown Health Center. Then we hop over to Top Aberdeen in St. Elizabeth, where residents are now receiving piped water. It promises to be a great journey. Stick around.
The newly rehabilitated health center in Barrowtown, St. James has left the residents of the community feeling proud and overjoyed. The facility, which includes offices, a records room, a kitchenette, a staff restroom, patient restrooms, and a nebulization room, was handed over to the community on Friday, February 11.
I am so proud of the community health center. Over the years I've been living here and it was never like this. I am so happy, I am overjoyed, and I hope that the people of this community will take care of our health center, will not vandalize it, right? But we'll be happy to have it.
The center is a great asset to all of us in this community and the adjoining communities. You know, it benefits a whole lot of people from all walks of life. So I appreciate it. All of us, I think, appreciate it. You know, mothers, pregnant mothers, those that come to the center for all kinds of reasons. You know, it's such a wonderful gift to all of us from JFC.
The work was completed at a cost of $43.8 million and is being hailed not just as a monetary investment, but also as an investment in our future.
The health center will provide significant benefits to the community and surrounding areas in the following ways. 1. The center will focus on people's well-being and will support individuals and families to attain a high level of holistic health. It will provide and promote healthy lifestyle choices through education, public awareness campaigns, and community outreach activities. 2. The health center will offer essential primary and preventive care services, which include basic doctor's visits, immunizations, health screening, dental and general health services. This will aid in reducing the patient load and waiting time at parish and regional hospitals. And 3, the center will also provide preventative care and assistance to patients through monitoring of chronic conditions, which will reduce medical costs as well as expensive emergency visits and hospital stays.
The rehabilitation project was spearheaded by the Jamaica Social Investment Fund, JSIF, through funding from the European Union under its Poverty Reduction Program. Over in St. Elizabeth, the residents too are elated and relieved, having received potable water through their pipes. The project was completed at a cost of $110 million and was spearheaded by the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development through the Rural Water Supply Limited.
And I have to give thanks for the water that turned on here today. The first thing I want to do, I want to get my ID, my TRN to register for the water.
So we are grateful. I am happy. I am glad that this is a reality, that we will have the access to potable water in the parish, in the district of Aberdeen. It was heartburn. It was pain. It was a pain. It was disastrous. Sometimes I had was to carry, that time I was a little bit strong them time there. I had also carry or push on my bicycle 4 of the 5-gallon jug of water in order for us to get water at the house to use. But thanks be to God, it will soon be over. It will soon be over. It will be a thing of the past. So again, let me say thanks to the government of Jamaica that bring this supply to us.
The project, which includes a newly constructed solar hybrid water pumping station, the installation of pipelines, and the construction of a water storage tank, will benefit over 1,600 residents.
This is a historical day because it is the first hybrid and the largest solar pumping station in the country. This is a first, so it has significance. And a community of over 1,600 persons and its environs will benefit significantly from this.
Residents must apply to the National Water Commission (NWC) for connection of the water supply to their homes.
That's all for the program today. As usual, thank you for joining us for Western Roundup, where we take you from the corners of St. Elizabeth to the hilly terrains of St. Anne. Remember to send your feedback to jismobi@jis.gov.jm. Until next time, stay safe.
Mosquitoes can spread diseases such as dengue fever. Protect yourself from mosquito bites. Use a mosquito repellent that contains DEET. Sleep under a mosquito net, close windows before dark, open windows and doors during fogging, cover your body as much as possible, and wear light-colored clothing. Protect yourself from dengue and other mosquito-borne diseases. Do your part to prevent mosquito breeding in your surroundings.
Chemicals in some foods we eat can put us at increased risk for cancer. Today's Healthwise segment looks at how proper diet can reduce that risk and help with treatment. Let's find out more.
We must exercise. We must seek to eat the right portions of the food groups that these studies have shown are important to a healthy body. And healthcare in Jamaica, I think, needs to shift somewhat away from the challenges of curing ailments to the challenge of preventing.
And as Jamaica moves to balance its disease prevention interventions with the curative aspects of healthcare, Jamaicans must explore the role that the foods we eat can play. Nutrition does play a role, both as a risk factor and as a tool for managing diseases such as cancer.
Essentially, cancer occurs whenever one of the cells in the body decides that it's going to misbehave and not listen to any instructions at all. And so it just grows and grows and grows and doesn't listen to the regular body signals to say, this is how you should behave. So it's really a misbehaving cell which proliferates and grows, and it then becomes a misbehaving tissue.
And what you eat or not can make a difference in how your body's cells behave.
The fundamental control systems in your body are all chemicals, and therefore the chemicals that you put in your body comes from food. So if there is any mismatch or which can occur, one can end up with having what we call a risk of cancer.
Doctors say that a typical diet for most Jamaicans, with its huge servings of starchy foods like rice, flour, yam and banana, with only small amounts of vegetables, does not provide the healthy benefits that can come through a diet. Instead, doctors suggest eating more fruits and vegetables rich in fiber and antioxidants, and fresh foods high in calcium and vitamin D. Fat-related chemicals are among those that tend to promote cancer, so diets that are high in fat create more of a predisposition to the disease. Alcohol can also have a negative impact.
We say you should not smoke. We also say that you should not consume alcohol if at all possible. The equivalent of an ounce a day is perhaps the limit that we'd allow.
Of course, there are other things not in our foods, found in our environment, which can cause you to get cancers, including toxins such as asbestos. But our focus here is on the role of what we consume, particularly processed foods, which doctors agree should only be eaten in minimal amounts. Some processed meats, for instance, have been linked to things like the propensity to develop colon cancer. To lower the risks, nutritionists recommend fresh meats that are broiled, baked, or steamed to get rid of the excess fat. Nutrition is seen not only as a means of prevention, but also part of the treatment for diseases such as cancer. Patients with cancer are often given specific nutrition interventions as part of their treatment regimen.
So apart from the specific surgical procedure you may have, or the radiological procedure that you may have, radiotherapy, or even the chemotherapy that you may have, nutrition also plays a role in you surviving your therapy.
In striving for a healthy lifestyle, which includes eating well, it's important to maintain physical and mental fitness. Fit individuals engaging in physical exercise at least 3 times per week are more likely not to have any of the chronic, non-communicable diseases such as cancer.
You should engage in at least 3 bouts of physical activity, at least 30 minutes for the day, moderate walking at minimum or the equivalent. You should have to be as stress-free as possible, and you should aim to achieve your ideal body weight. So those factors would generally lead you to what we consider to be a healthy lifestyle, which will tend to protect you not only from cancers, but also other cardiovascular diseases like diabetes and hypertension.
Disease prevention should be our priority. So let's all make our food our medicine and our medicine our food. It's everybody's business.
Jamaica's COVID-19 vaccination plan is still in effect.
Persons with appointments to receive a vaccine will be allowed to do so during curfew hours. Persons will be required to present evidence of the appointment. And how it will work is you will show the text message that you would have received or your email to the police.
If you wish to make an appointment, please do so online by visiting moh.gov.jm or by calling 888-663-5683. Vaccination sites will open until 4 p.m. daily. Vaccination still a keep. Go get your jab today.
Not only does agriculture supply us with the food we need to live, it's also the primary source for many material things we use in other areas of life, including medication, biofuel, and much more. It's a lucrative field and an important pillar in the economy of our country. And new technology is helping to revolutionize this field. We'll learn more in this next feature.
Technology has afforded us the opportunity of being in control without having direct physical contact with objects or certain mechanics, thus creating an ease and relaxed way of doing things. Now, this remote operating technology has been added to farming at the local level. In a technology-driven world, persons are finding more innovative ways to improve and simplify how we do things, as well as creating added benefits and increased profits for businesses. Such was the intention of engineering student at the University of the West Indies, Ewan Pitter, when he designed and created this fully automated hydroponic greenhouse system. Renewable energy driven, the system is programmed to be operated by the use of a smartphone or the internet, facilitating a more efficient and effective approach to farming.
You don't have to be at the plants every day, right? At the greenhouse every day, because you have access to all information that you normally would go there to check for.
Information such as the nutrient levels, water, temperature and humidity, which in a typical greenhouse setting would require manual observation and control. But Pitter's automated system controls all that activity, allowing farmers to maintain quality crops from just about anywhere in the world.
We control the nutrient concentration, such as your N, your nitrate, the phosphate and your potash, as well as pH and dissolved oxygen. We have a set limit that those parameters are supposed to be at. So once it exceeds those parameters that we set, you will automatically updated by your cell phone to let you know that something is wrong in your greenhouse, right? Our nutrient is off. We can actually monitor this system remotely via cell phone or over the internet.
The intelligent controlling is performed by what's called a programmable logic controller (PLC) that's microcontroller based. The PLC is used to activate the input and output processes of the greenhouse hydroponic system. Head of UWI's Engineering Department and UN Supervisor Dr. Paul Aking explains.
Everything that feeds the nutrients and the sensors and the valves and everything that requires some on-off or some amount of control, all of that is computerized, and it goes into the computer and it stores as special signals, and the commands are stored as special signals. What we do now, we send those signals via the internet, via the SMS, via something like your texting, and then we can see what it is, and we can send both ways. It's bidirectional.
The application won first place for the open category in the 2013 Minister's Innovation Award developed by the Science and Technology Ministry.
It's an ICT control, meaning that the Internet Protocol login, monitoring and control system of an agricultural process that everyone knows about. No one was aware that you could control these things so remotely, and it really blew the judges away.
Judges were also impressed by the system's ability to efficiently produce its own supply of energy while providing a sustainable means for food security and food production.
This project is about growing plants in a solution environment. It's about controlling such growth and ensuring that you can do that control remotely, or you control and monitor remotely.
Greenhouse farming is known for generating very high crop yield and high quality produce when compared to open-air farming. Interests have already been pouring in from both the private and public sector, including the Ministry of Agriculture, about the microcontroller-based automated hydroponic greenhouse system, and the team intends to make this a true demonstration that the technology works.
The next stage is we're going to go to a functional, fully demonstratable functional prototype that anyone in the country can come and look at. You'll see the physical plants growing. You'll get a measure of the yield of the plants. We want to take it as far as it can go. So we want to demonstrate that the technology works.
Ultimately, this automated system is intended to replace the hydroponic technology being used today and make some farming methods less labor-intensive.
We want to engage in projects that are useful, that are nation building, that are solving problems in the nation, not just some on-the-shelf stuff. So hydroponic and sustainable agriculture is a useful, and we add the electronics and the engineering to it, modernize it, and here we have a product.
This level of commitment to nation building justifies the government's unending drive to promote technology as a vehicle to propel new businesses and to improve existing ones.
Reduce your risk of viral illnesses like the flu and coronavirus. Wash your hands frequently with soap and water. Cover your nose and mouth when coughing with a tissue and dispose of it. Avoid close contact with anyone with a cold or flu-like symptoms. If you become ill, please visit your doctor or the nearest health center and share your travel history. The flu and coronavirus can kill. Let's protect each other. A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
There is a popular saying, reading maketh a man, and we agree, as this is an important skill for our children to learn, develop and grasp the opportunities the world has to offer. Children with a reading disability should not be left behind. In fact, help is available through the Jamaica University Diagnostic Reading Center. Learn more about this in this next feature.
The Jamaica University College Child Assessment and Research in Education Center, a feat made possible by several major players, with renowned educator Professor Errol Miller leading the team, opened its doors in 1981 and over the years has grown to become the first point of contact in the diagnosis, evaluation and treatment of children with special needs in Jamaica.
In 1975, the Ministry of Education mandated Jamaica College to educate and train teachers for special education. An advisory committee was set up by the college. The committee recommended that Jamaica establish a diagnostic and therapeutic center capable of diagnosing the learning problems of children with multiple disabilities and develop instructional prescriptions for teachers and parents. As psychologists, education specialists, and therapists began to provide services to students, they had to use tests from overseas. Many were not appropriate in content. The assessment of reading posed the greatest challenge. Reading is common to all areas. Students needed the test to be tested individually. The content of reading tests had to reflect the physical and social environments, as well as the lived experience of children.
First published in 1995, the Microdiagnostic Reading Test is an instrument for teachers, diagnosticians, or professionals designed to assess the reading skills of children. Assessment results from this instrument is further used to design educational plans to meet the individual learning needs of the child.
As societies change, more is learned from research and experience gained from practice. Instruments have to be updated, upgraded, and refined. Hence, the Microdiagnostic Reading Test of 2018.
So it's been a number of years since the first edition has been out. So this new version is an updated version in terms of the passages, in terms of the grade range that it covers, and in terms of the subtests that are involved. We're looking at a number of different aspects of reading. We're looking at a child's ability to distinguish sound in the words that they hear. We're looking at their decoding ability, their knowledge of sight words, reading fluency, and their understanding of what they're reading. One of the benefits of this new version, because we're looking at a number of different areas of reading, is that we can be much more targeted in the recommendations that we're creating for teachers and parents. So instead of just saying a child has a reading deficit, we can say maybe they need to learn more sight words, maybe they need to learn, pick up their fluency, maybe they need to target comprehension. So we can focus on the specific area of reading that they're having difficulty with, instead of just saying they have a reading concern.
It's administered individually. There are 3 components. There's a sight word, non-words, and reading comprehension. It takes about roughly an hour to an hour and a half, depending on the level at which the child is at. It varies because most of the children already come with reading problems. They are also aware that they have reading problems. So some are nervous, some have anxiety issues. So it's where I come into play, where I have to do some form of encouragement, let them know that the reason why they're doing this test, for me to know their strengths and their weaknesses so that I can help them moving forward. So after the test is completed, I go through and I score. So the test will now tell me the level at which the child is reading. So that also lets me prepare work packets, activities, worksheets, etc. for their level, for their specific reading need.
It helped me to read and answer a story and answer a lot of questions.
The MDRT is currently used in a number of countries across the region. It's used in a number of classrooms. We have a number of teachers who come through to be trained on it so that they can pick up the reading challenges that they have in the classroom. So we expect that this new version will all similarly be used across the region.
The new Microdiagnostic Reading Test 2nd edition is now available. Contact the Microcare Center to register for one of our workshops at 876-929-772022 or by email at care_center@cwjamaica.com.
Getting the first dose is not an excuse not to wear the mask, not to social distance or physical distance, not to sanitize. Getting the first dose is not justification for deciding that you're going to resume the parties, the gatherings beyond the limits that have been established. The journey is to observe the protocols, take the second dose when it is time, and then we will resume some semblance of normalcy once we achieve herd immunity.
And that brings us to the final stop on today's journey through the pages of Jamaica Magazine. Thank you so much for your company. Be sure to join us again tomorrow when we'll do this all over again. Until then, keep watching for this and other programs on the JIS's YouTube channel. Visit our website, jis.gov.jm, and find us on all the major social media platforms and through our mobile app that's Android and iOS compatible. On behalf of the entire production team, I'm Adrian Atkinson, reminding you to protect yourself and others against COVID-19. Get vaccinated and maintain good hygiene practices. Wear your mask in the presence of other persons and do stay safe.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.